Hi, I'm Mark, and today we have to talk about Brexit and next week's Parliament session. After the agreement between London and Brussels on new Brexit implementation rules for Northern Ireland, the British Parliament is due to vote on them next week. Specifically, a central part of the agreement, a clause known as the Stormont Break, is to be put up for a vote on Wednesday, as Conservative MP Penny Mordaunt announced as the responsible cabinet member on Thursday in the London House of Commons. This is an agreement that allows members of the Northern Ireland Parliament to object to the application of new EU laws in Northern Ireland on a case-by-case basis. A few weeks ago, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen presented an agreement intended to end a year-long dispute and simplify trade between Northern Ireland and the rest of the United Kingdom. But much depends on whether the agreement will appeal to the DUP Unionist Party in that region. Supporters of the union with Great Britain are blocking the formation of a government, allegedly in protest at the previous regulations. They also expressed doubts about the agreement. I talked about this yesterday. Even after Brexit, Northern Ireland will follow the rules of the EU internal market and the customs union. And this regulation is intended to avoid a hard EU external border between the EU state or EU member state of Ireland and Northern Ireland, as otherwise tensions in the old Civil War region would be expected to flare up again. Since the 2016 Brexit referendum, the division of the island of Ireland has been back in the spotlight. For the British, the situation is quite hair-pulling, as you could say. Last February, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced that London and Brussels had just reached this agreement on Northern Ireland. The Good Friday Agreement, signed in 1998, abolished the customs border between the two parts of the same island of Ireland, namely the Republic of Ireland, a sovereign state, and Northern Ireland, a constituent nation of the United Kingdom. Since the 2016 Brexit referendum, there has no longer been a hard border between the European Community and Northern Ireland, even despite Brexit. And the situation was problematic. How to manage post-Brexit customs checks with Northern Ireland without reinstalling a hard border with the Republic of Ireland? Once again, Brits wondered why Northern Ireland, whose 1.9 million people make up just 3% of the UK population, so often complicate their lives. The partition of the island of Ireland in 1921 would provide a first answer to this question. But the real reason is that Ireland lived under English rule for 7 centuries. It was an Englishman, Pope Adrian IV, who allowed Henry II to conquer Ireland in 1171. But it was the arrival of the Tudors to the English throne in the late 15th century that changed the status of Ireland. Under Henry VIII, England became a Protestant country while the majority of the Irish remained loyal to Rome. To better establish their authority in Ireland, the Tudors decided to colonize the whole country through a plantation system. The island was the scene of systematic plunder. Irish lands were confiscated in favor of settlers from England, Scotland, and Wales. The Ulster plantation in the north of the island was the most important. The new settlers, mainly Scots and English, transformed the region and turned the Belfast into a major industrial city. And nothing went well between colonists and colonized. Civil unrest spread across the island, sometimes leading to riots. At the end of the 18th century, the situation had turned into widespread violence between Catholics and Protestants. The latter fought back in 1795 by founding the Orange Order. In 1798, the Great Irish Rebellion was brutally crushed by the British. In 1800, the British Parliament, seeking a solution, incorporated Ireland into the United Kingdom through the Act of Union. The new country was then called the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. The Irish were henceforth divided between nationalists and unionists, whose struggle lasted for 120 years in Westminster. The main objective of the two nationalist leaders, Daniel O'Connell and Charles Stewart Parnell, was Home Rule, Ireland's internal autonomy, but the Unionists had the support of Parliament. A majority in Ulster, Irish Protestants did not want to find themselves in the minority in a country whose parliament in Dublin would be under the influence of the Catholic Church. Home rule is Rome rule, said their slogan. Both houses of Westminster agreed with them at the time. Despite this, the House rules were finally approved in 1912. Ulster Protestants threatened military resistance if the new law were imposed on them, and Ireland was already on the brink of civil war. The outbreak of World War I in August 1914 delayed the law's entry into force. Frustrated nationalists launched an Easter Rising in 1916. The failure of the rebellion had serious consequences for Ireland, though. The government bowed to the demand of the Ulster Protestants, who threatened civil war and eventually allowed them to secede from the rest of Ireland. In May 1921, Northern Ireland was born, consisting of 6 of the 9 counties of the province of Ulster, all predominantly Protestant and Unionist, and it's still part of the UK. The future of Northern Ireland seems uncertain. It endured 30 years of intercommunal violence before finding peace in 1998. In 2016, 56% of the constituent nation voted against Brexit. In the 2022 elections, Unionists lost their majority to a nationalist party. A census last September showed that Catholics are now in the majority in Northern Ireland, and the final chapter of this story has yet to be written. But Brexit also has consequences for the whole of Great Britain, which we unfortunately have to keep talking about. Because of Brexit, many workers are still missing in the UK. And because of the acute shortage of skilled workers in various sectors, the British government wants to let more foreign construction workers, also roofers and craftsmen, into the country. That's according to a budget presented by Chancellor of the Exchequer Jeremy Hunt this week. This provides for the list of shortage occupations for which simplified visa requirements apply to be expanded by 5 craft occupations. The measure stands in stark contrast to the Conservative government's otherwise restrictive migration policy. Hunt promised not to solve the problem of the millions of job vacancies in the UK through what he called unlimited migration. In his lengthy speech on the budget on Wednesday, there was no mention of the additional visa facilitation. A BBC presenter on Thursday described this as a hidden story of the budget. Asked whether Brexit supporters might feel cheated by this, Hunt justified himself. Those who voted for Brexit said they wanted to control immigration, not to stop it completely. Ha ha. The list of shortage occupations is to be reviewed again this autumn. A number of sectors are demanding an expansion of the professional groups in order to be able to recruit foreign skilled workers. But there is another topic I must not omit today. Although, as I said in my video yesterday, the government always said it first wants to negotiate with the strikers again when they stop the strikes, there is a solution allegedly now. After an unprecedented wave of strikes in the British Health Service NHS, the government has reached an agreement with the unions in the wage dispute. The government announced in London on Thursday that more than 1 million employees in England would receive a significant wage increase. The agreement provides for a one-off payment of at least £1,250 for the current tariff year and an increase of at least 5% from April. The largest unions advise their members to accept the deal, and planned strikes are suspended. As recently as Wednesday, tens of thousands of public sector employees, including many medical assistants, demonstrated in London for higher wages. Hundreds of thousands walked out across the country. Health Secretary Steve Barclay on Thursday called on residents to join other professionals in agreeing to the offer. The Conservative government had long refused to negotiate more money for NHS workers, claiming it would only fuel high inflation. Now they spoke of a fair solution. It is right that we are rewarding our hardworking NHS workers who have shown courage and dedication through the pandemic, is what Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said. The agreement would be affordable for taxpayers. Shortly before Christmas, the nurses union RCN called on its members to go on strike for the first time in its history. Rescue workers also went on strike. And labor disputes in various sectors have repeatedly paralyzed the country for months. For example, there is still no solution for all groups of employees and for all companies at the railways. So we will talk about the strikes again in these videos in the future. I'm quite sure about this. And I'm quite sure that right at the same time like this video, finally my 2 game channels have been gone online. So right now you will also find, if you speak English, on Outside Views Games, the first game there, and on Outside Views Spiele if you speak German. And the links to both are in the description of this video. So just have a look and enjoy. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.